This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic! What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is October 31st, 2024. Jonathan Osborne here, as always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Happy Halloween.
Ooh, it's spooky season around here. Just the joys of an NBA season. You get a thrilling Monday, a historic performance. You get a great first quarter tonight, and then another historic performance in the fourth quarter, just the wrong kind. So lots of ups and downs. Jonathan, how are you on this spooky season day?
Sports are weird. Some of us take them too seriously, and we let them affect us, emotionally a lot more than we should. About 20 minutes ago, the Yankees lost, Game 5 of the World Series. Magic were up 20 points tonight in the first half, blew the lead, had one of the worst fourth quarter offensive performances, I think, in the history of basketball. So I am not happy right now. I'm not in a good headspace. It is already after midnight. We're just starting to record this pod. Who knows how long it will go? We joked maybe it'll be 12 minutes. Maybe it'll be an hour and 12 minutes. You never really know when we jump on here. But yeah, I'm not doing great right now. I'm not going to hide that. We're going to talk about Paolo's 50 ball, and we're going to celebrate that. And I'm going to try to muster up every ounce of positive energy that I have to talk about that and give that the attention that it deserves. If you want to hear like our raw, real reactions to that, we put out an episode last night. So what was that? Or 2 nights ago, rather, Monday night. I hopped on the post-game live with Kevin. We kind of turned that into like an emergency pod, and we reacted immediately following the Magic's win over the Pacers, where Paolo Banchero scored a career-high 50 points. But we're still going to talk about that and sort of talk about like the national reaction to Paolo, Kevin. So, we do have a couple of really fun announcements, a couple of things to talk about. We have been asked about this really all off-season and all preseason here as we are getting into the season. We've been asked, hey, when are you guys having another group night? So we are super happy and excited and stoked to announce that our first group night of the year is coming up on December 19th when the Magic take on the Oklahoma City Thunder at home. That game is going to be on TNT. Yes, that is going to be a revenge game for last season when the Oklahoma City Thunder spoiled the night of Shaq's jersey retirement. So we're running it back. We are looking for the most diehard Orlando Magic fans. We're going to be in the section close to the Oklahoma City Thunder bench. So we're looking to be able to affect those guys. This game is going to be on national TV. So again, we're really just looking to make that like a playoff type atmosphere, really give our team a home court advantage, let the world know that Orlando is here, that Orlando fans do exist. And the first 100 tickets that are purchased from this group night will get access to the pregame warm-up, pregame experience with us. So those are officially on sale now. We did give this link early to our patrons. So if you want early access to events like this, joining our Patreon is a great way to get a heads up on all this kind of stuff ahead of time. So some of these tickets are already gone. Again, the first 100 tickets get access to the pregame warmups, but we're going to be in section 102 and 101. And the last I checked, comparing the prices that we're getting through this offer from the Magic through this group offer, in certain areas of those sections, you're going to be saving up to 50% when you compare it to what is available on Ticketmaster. And that's like just regular gate prices, not like the secondary resale prices on Ticketmaster. So this is a really good deal to sit in this area for like a legitimate primetime game. So we're looking forward to that. So you're probably waiting for the link. You're telling me to spit it out as you're listening to this. You can purchase your tickets by going to FEVO, which is FEVO, FEVO-enterprise.com/event/sixthman, which is SIXTHMAN 65/offer. Again, that is FEVO-enterprise.com/event/sixthman65/offer. We will put that link in the description for the podcast episodes as well as the YouTube video as well. So if you don't want to try to listen to what I'm saying and type all that in, the link will be in the description on your podcast platform. And if you're watching this on YouTube, the link will be in the description to this video. So Kevin, there's the link. Can't wait for this night. Really excited for it.
We'll also tweet it out and all that stuff. So we'll put the link a lot of places you can find it. I just wanted to add, you talked about it being a revenge game, which it is. Revenge game for when OKC came to Orlando last year and they spoiled the Shaq night. That game was also a group night for us, lest we forget. And so we as a group are also looking for revenge on the Thunder. So if you're coming, you better bring it, bring the noise, bring the energy. But yeah, it's going to be fun. I'll be there. You'll be there. A couple of other guys from our team will be there. It'll be a good time.
And then this coming Friday, so tomorrow as you're listening to this, November 1st, next watch party of the year, we're going up against who, as of right now and come Friday before this tip-off, they're going to be undefeated, the Cleveland Cavaliers, in a rematch from last year's playoff series. This game is going to be on ESPN. It's a nationally televised game, but we are going to be at Rivals on Wall Street. Tip-off is at 7 o'clock, so we'll be there at 6:30. The party will get going there. You don't want to miss this. These watch parties are always a great time. We have a very creepily good record. The Magic do, at least, when we have these watch parties, partnering with the Orlando Magic and partnering with Michelob Ultra. So we want you guys to come out to that. Again, that's going to be Friday night. Downtown Orlando will be at Rivals on Wall Street. Do not miss it. There will be Michelob Ultra specials like there always is. And it'll just be a great time to get together with your fellow Magic fans. And Kevin, I have a good feeling about this coming off the Chicago game. They've had this, the last two times the Magic have had 20-point leads in the first half, they have lost those games, going back to the loss to the Cleveland Cavaliers in Game 7. So they're going to have that sour taste in their mouth. They're going to want to get a bounce-back game and a get-back game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So really looking forward to that game on Friday.
Yeah, that'll be fun. That's a huge game. I obviously, for a lot of reasons, wish the Magic would have won tonight, because then that would have set up Friday as the winner of that game is top in the East. If the Magic, because the Celtics lost tonight, if the Magic were 4-1 going into that game, could have been 5-1 tied with the Cavs. But anyway, can't get that back. The Cavs are playing freaking good basketball. All right. The whole Kenny Atkinson thing is working for them. They had a really easy schedule early, but then they beat the Knicks, and then tonight they beat the brakes off the Los Angeles Lakers. So that's going to be a really tough game, but a really good test for the Magic, and obviously a great time for a watch party.
So enough, we've touched on, the loss from Wednesday night to the Bulls a little bit. Let's go back to Monday night against that game against the Indiana Pacers and, have a little bit of, positive talk here. Lift some spirits here. Paolo Banchero was the story in that game. It was 37 points in the first half. Really had it going early on. You could tell he was feeling it, but you never really know. We've seen other guys have big first half performances, not quite this big. This tied the franchise record for most points and a half, tying it with Tracy McGrady. But you just never know if that energy and the flow is going to carry over into the second half. And to start the second half, it didn't really look like it was carrying over. Paolo got it going a little bit more, into that, fourth quarter, because the Magic come out in the third quarter. They're up 12 at half against the Indiana Pacers and didn't have the best of third quarters, giving up 39 points to Indiana while only scoring 22 points. The Magic shot 27.3% in that third quarter. It felt like it was starting to get out of hand a little bit. The Pacers would extend their lead. The Magic would make a little bit of a run. Pacers would extend that lead back out. And then the momentum and the energy changed towards the last few minutes of that third quarter. Mo Wagner with the back-to-back dunks. It felt like it gave the team a little bit more energy. And then going into the fourth quarter, you're trying to dig yourself out of that hole. And basically what it came down to is the Magic were just able to make a few more plays, that Indiana didn't make. If we fast forward really towards the end of this fourth quarter, Aaron Nesmith, he's got 5 fouls. He fouls Anthony Black and then gets called for a technical with 2 minutes and 7 seconds left. The Pacers were up 1 at that point, or rather it was a tie game. Suggs makes the free throw to put them up 1. Anthony Black makes both free throws to put them up 3. A couple of possessions later, Halliburton has a little jump step to his left, which on the last 2-minute report when that got released on Tuesday, that should have been called a travel. We saw that in real time, but he knocks down the 3 to tie the game up. And then ball is inbounded that next play. There's 53 seconds left. Paolo Banchero gets double teamed behind the back pass to Jalen Suggs on the left wing, who looked like he was open for the three, but pump fakes, gets the defender to bite, takes one dribble to the left. Next defender, who is really helping off of Anthony Black, comes up to guard Jalen. And Jalen, shooting the ball well in this game, could have swung it or could have took the shot, but swung it to Anthony Black. Anthony Black raises up, knocks down the three after he had a big three, a few minutes before. Really, this was the go-ahead and ultimately the game winner. Pacers aren't able to capitalize on the next possession. Wendell Carter gets the rebound, gets it to Paolo. Paolo had 49 at that point. Everybody knew we've got to get this guy the ball. They have to foul. He gets fouled, goes to the line, splits the free throws, gets to 50 points, but the Magic ultimately end up winning that game 119 to 115. In terms of the performance overall for the Magic, it wasn't great because we had to sweat out. It kind of looked like Paolo's going to get to 50. Regardless, once he gets past 43, he's got a new career high. And being down for the majority of that second half and a good part of the fourth, you're like, we're just going to end up wasting this performance. Ultimately, you don't. Paolo gets to 50, kind of made everything go away at that point. But the Magic were kind of setting this up to be another incredible Paolo Banchero performance wasted. No Franz Wagner in that one. That was definitely a factor due to the illness that's seemingly going around the team. We don't know if it's going to stop with Franz. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens with that. We'll talk about the effects of that in Wednesday's game. But where do you want to start? You want to talk about this game? I feel like we can't talk about this game really without talking about the 50 ball, because without it, you don't win this game. And who knows how close it is.
Right. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of things to look at with this game because the team really required Paolo to, put them on their back, because it's one of those things like, obviously Paolo's a great creator and great scorer and all those things. And if he doesn't have it going on, then that's when we usually have Franz, slot in and take over some of those responsibilities. But when you don't have Franz except for 10 minutes in this game, it really kind of shows some of the weaknesses of this team, especially offensively. And so, yeah, Paolo's going to play a big role, but for him to go out there and do that, again, especially in the first half, the second half, being honest, was a pretty typical Paolo second half, right? He just ends up with 13, had some great moments and all those things, especially down the stretch, had some big moments. But that's like typical. And not to say that that's not good, Paolo is good. So that was like a typical second half. It was that first half, that 37-point first half, when Paolo did quite literally whatever he wanted over those 24 minutes. I mean, whether it was getting to the rim, whether it was getting, to the foul line, whether it was hitting mid-range jumpers, hitting triples, like the guy was everywhere and efficient too, like to finish the night, even in the second half when he, kind of went cold and started to struggle once the Pacers kind of changed how they were defending him. He still ends up shooting 61% from the field, still ends up shooting 33% from three. Obviously, free throws are the big thing. He goes 15 of 22 from the line, obviously want to see him do better than that. He said it himself, and then you turn around and look at the rest of his stats. Now, he didn't just score the basketball. It wasn't just empty buckets. He also gets 13 boards and 9 assists. I mean, the guy, it was a special night, like a historic night in terms of Magic history. But then when you look across the league, when you factor in his age and you factor in that whole stat line of 50, 13, and 9 as a 21-year-old, that's when you start to realize how big of a freaking deal this was. Like, it was crazy. It was so special. And obviously, you love to get the win. It would have been such a waste if you didn't. But you needed every ounce of it to get the win. And so that's the other part that's cool. Like, this wasn't done in a 30-point blowout. Like, the Magic needed everything they got from him. They get the win. And ultimately, like I said, in the realm of the NBA, a historic performance for Paolo on Monday.
And historic for the Magic. I mean, this was the 50 points were the most scored by a Magic player since Tracy McGrady in like the beginning of 2004. So almost 25 years. This is the single greatest Magic performance in almost 25 years, from Paolo Banchero. Now, obviously, there other games that Dwight had in the postseason, but we're really talking about regular season in this instance here. But even like the game 6 against the Cavs in 09, like the 40 points and however many rebounds it was. This is still 50 points, 13 rebounds. Obviously, stakes are higher in that finals game, but like just on its face, like face value, a guy just going out and get buckets. This is the single greatest Magic performance in the last 25 years. And to do it shooting 61% from the floor, 3 of 9, 33% from behind the arc isn't crazy. You're not having a performance like this without getting to the free throw line a good amount. And like you said, and we talked about immediately after the game, 22, free throws, you only make 15 of those. You make 5 more of those, you make another 3. He had a couple of easy ones, in that second half. He very easily could have got to 60. And if some guys make a couple, shots, this is a 50-point triple-double that we're talking about. So, I don't remember watching the Tracy McGrady game live. I don't think I watched it live. And, over the years, we've seen a couple of 40-point performances from Aaron Gordon, back in the day. We saw the 40-point, game from Paolo. Guys like Evan Fournier, Nikola Vucevic, Franz Wagner have flirted with 40-point games over the years. And I just wasn't sure that I would ever see that level of a performance. And I definitely think we all knew that Paolo was capable of having a game like this, but knowing that he's capable of doing it and actually doing it and being able to witness it are two separate things. Even if he hadn't got to 50, I think the 37-point first half, if something weird happens, he ends up with 45 or whatever, it still would have been a great game. I think we'd all wow, I'm going to remember that forever. But that first half was just so special. He was just doing whatever he wanted to do. You couldn't put enough guys in front of him. He was getting to the rim. Obviously, he was getting to the free throw line. It's crazy that he ends up shooting 3 for 9 in this game from behind the arc. He was 3 for 6 in the first half. And I think you had talked about it. He makes a defensive play on one that I think it was it Miles Turner that was trying to dunk on him at the rim. He just goes straight up. I wasn't sure if he got a piece of that, but the dunk was missed. And then we go the other way, and Paolo just walks into a 3 to give him 32 in the first half. And you made the comment that Kia, we need a little bit more energy for what this guy is doing. It's not normal. But the crazy thing is, it wasn't shocking at all. We all knew that he was capable of this, but still seeing it in real time, is really wild. And the Magic had it going. They have a 13-point lead in this game at one point. Offense really seemed to be clicking. And then, because, it was Paolo and Jalen in that first quarter, both of those guys. Jalen 6 of 13 from 3 in this game. We'll talk about Jalen a little bit, but those guys were carrying the offense. But when it became obvious that it was really Paolo that really, really, really had it going, it sort of turned into everybody's just standing around and watching Paolo, which most plays was fine. But specifically that stretch in the third quarter, the offense just completely stalled. And I think that also sort of happened tonight in Chicago. It wasn't so much just the Paolo effect, but it's kind of when we've had good offensive starts, we just sort of get comfortable. Oh, guys are making threes. We're all just going to start shooting threes. But part of the conversation of the 50-point game is just the way that the national media has reacted to this. Part of my take, Paolo was scheduled to record an episode with them. I think that was recorded yesterday in their Chicago headquarters. And Big Cat at the beginning of the episode, I didn't like the line. It pissed me off. But he's we were just going to save this for whenever we needed an episode, but now we have to put this out because you just scored 50. It's well, it's kind of a crappy thing to say, but it definitely is true. It's a hot, talking point right now. Broadcasts around the NBA, during the Heat game, they were talking about the Paolo 50-point performance. He was on, NBA Today on ESPN on Tuesday with Malika Andrews talking about the 50-point game. So, slowly but surely, people are coming around to Paolo. Now, we know there are people in the content space that actually know basketball and actually watch the games that have been giving Paolo credit for a long time. Shout out to our friends over at the Numbers on the Board podcast on ESPN. But the rest of the NBA world, it seems like they're not all the way there, but they're almost there to acknowledging Paolo as one of the next faces of the league and absolutely a rising superstar.
Right. And the reason why they're so slow to do it is simply because of the jersey that he wears, right?
Correct.
if Paolo was doing the things that he's been doing over the last 2 seasons plus 5 games in almost any other jersey, he is one of the talks of the league. Like, he's one of the darlings as people talk about like up and coming stars. And that stuff always just makes me angry, and I don't understand it. But that's why we exist. That's literally why this show exists. So we can talk about Paolo since no one else does.
I'm like genuinely starting to wonder about it because, like, Chet Holmgren, he's in his 3rd year as well. And I just see everybody drooling over Chet.
Mm-hmm.
People have been drooling over Ja Morant, for years. Zion Williamson, when he came into the league, it did feel like it took Giannis. Like, first of all, it took Giannis a few years to even get to that level, right? Like, really came into the league very under the radar, and it took him a few years to get going. But it genuinely feels like it's just Orlando. And maybe that's just our bias talking, or my bias talking. But when I look around the league and like we talk about like small market bias, I really can't think, and this might just be woe is me, so feel free to call me out on it if it is, but it genuinely feels like we're the only team that gets disrespected to this level.
Yeah, it feels like it at times. And I think part of that, like if I think about like an OKC, they had this stretch where they were one of the darlings of the league with, their 3-headed monster of KD, Russell Westbrook, James Harden. So like instantly they became media darlings. Then obviously they started tanking, but then the last couple of years they've been on the up. And a guy like Chet, I think, is, obviously he had a big profile in college and everything, but I think he's just in that category of just physical freak, which Paolo is too, but in a different way. But like you look at Chet and you're just like, what the heck, But then you pair him with a guy like Shea, who's already a superstar and stuff, and their like culture. And I don't know. I think OKC's always had a bit of a thing when it comes to the media, but when it comes to the Magic, I think it has to do with us being really bad for a long time. And even I remember, the Dwight days, like when the team was really good, we just weren't ever really talked about, And
that's what I'm saying. So it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like the Thunder, they might be a little bit different because, like you said, like they transitioned so quickly from like, the KD Harden teams. Then it was like, okay, it's all Westbrook's thing, and then they brought in Paul George and they brought in Carmelo, and then they went right from that like into the Shea, like Chris Paul era, where like the Dennis Schroeder team, where they just like built up this treasure trove of 1st-round picks, and everybody has just been like glazing Sam Presti since that, like deservedly so. He's done a fantastic job, but like I don't know. I'm super sensitive to this being a Giants fan, but the way that the media in recent years has like talked about Howie Rosenthal, like the GM of the Eagles, like, oh my gosh, how does Howie do it? And it's like, okay, well, the Eagles, for all the moves that they've made, like they've gotten pretty close. They haven't gotten it done, since the Nick Foles team. But then it's like, well, for all the moves that he's made, they're still not a very good team. And Sam Presti, is very different. I'm not trying to compare Sam Presti to Howie Rosenthal, but it's just like certain GMs in leagues, they get more attention, and they're deemed as like smarter and better, than everyone else. But I don't know. I don't mean to continue. I know people are going to find this annoying, but it's just like, no matter what we do, team, is really good. Back in the day, don't get a lot of attention. You're bad for a long time. Well, hey, now we're really good again. And it's just like Paolo doesn't get the amount of attention that he should. And if he was almost in any other market, I think it would be so much different.
Well, I think that's part of why Magic fans are so excited, not necessarily about the present. I mean, we are, but like the future outlook for this team is like, this team cannot be ignored for much longer, right? Like it's literally impossible, like based on the trajectory.
ESPN goes, hold my beer.
Yeah, that's right. I know. But like you win 47 games last year when you're not supposed to, and you should only be getting better over the next 5 years. And so if that continues, then this team has to be talked about. They have to be taken seriously in pretty short order. And so I think that's part of why Magic fans are excited, obviously to win, but to be relevant again, I think is, at least speaking for myself, that's what gets me pretty excited about the future too.
We interrupt this episode to bring you a word from our friends over at Jam Hot Chicken. Jam Hot Chicken is proudly serving the city beautiful. Jam Hot Chicken is bringing Jam's culture and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. Jam Hot Chicken is in Nashville and LA. inspired hot chicken shack, locally owned and operated in Winter Park, Florida, located over there at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square. Follow them at Jam Hot Chicken on all social media and check out jamhotchickenfl.com to access their menu, online ordering, music playlist, and all things Jam Hot. You can also find them now on Uber Eats. So if you are local to Orlando or the Winter Park area, you don't want to leave your house, but you want that delicious sando, that huge, juicy chicken breast to your heat level. It's got this coleslaw on it. Just a fantastic sandwich. Everybody that gets that, they cannot believe just how big the portions are over there at Jam, but now available on Uber Eats, so you can get that delivered right to your door. And remember, Jam Hot Chicken, they are serving the city beautiful and bringing Jam's culture and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. Shout out to our friends over at Jam Hot Chicken.
Also, shout out to El Magico, Stantino 1995, Bueno Times, Dylan Fay, and Santi Leon. They are 5 of our Hall of Fame and Elite tier patrons, which can be found at our Patreon, which is patreon.com/the6man show. Several different tiers that you can choose from to financially support the show and make everything that we do possible. We also shout out any brand new patrons that we have on each episode. And today we get to shout out David Rodaville, someone Jonathan knows. And I might butcher this, but Abantopoulos. It's a clever name. It's creative. It's new. It's something we've never seen before. But shout out to both of you guys for joining our Patreon. Definitely appreciate the support. But yeah, like I said, if you want to financially support the 6-man show, whether it's, because of our show or the live post-game shows or the watch parties or whatever it is that you find enjoyable or useful from our platform, definitely check us out at 6-man show. Nope, the patreon.com/the 6-man show. Now let's get back to the episode.
And then, after this game, our boy Manny had the fantastic idea of like, hey, let me put together just like a little highlight clip around this game. And he took clips from, various outlets. We've given enough attention to some of these folks, on the pod, and of course all the attention that the video has gotten. But if you haven't seen that, it's all across all of our social media platforms. That video did very well, by the way. Manny is just so good at what he does. But then seeing our followers and listeners take that and like go right back at some of the features from that video has been pretty fun, and some of the responses to that has been pretty funny. But yeah, this game was just awesome because not that I don't think we felt like we needed the validation that Paolo was like this, rising superstar. But this is just like, well, he just had a 50-point game in a super efficient way for the majority of the game without Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs and, Anthony Black and Mo Wagner like being the third and fourth best players on the floor in this game against, an Indiana Pacers team who, they beat Boston tonight in overtime, although they almost blew that game. They've had a sort of rocky start to start the year, but a lot of people are high on the Pacers. I am not that high on them. They had the trip to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. We beat this game, and I do still feel like we are, a significantly better team than this Pacers team. I don't think this game should have been as close as it was. Obviously, we're not totally healthy, but, we'll talk about this more as we talk about the Bulls game, but like 5 games in, I'm not thrilled. We're 3-2, but I am not thrilled about the way the Magic have been playing outside of the first game against Miami. And hey, Miami also might just not be very good.
Yeah, I think that's a big thing too. The only other thing I have from this game is obviously this will be remembered primarily for the Paolo 50-point game.
Oh, we can continue to talk about this game. Are we done talking about Paolo? Because I've got plenty of stuff to still talk about this
Paolo?
Game.
That's fine. Let me just throw this one thing in there. What I loved also about this game, in addition to the 50 points, which we can talk about forever, I don't care. But like the Jalen Suggs stuff, like especially in that first quarter, was really the first half. He starts 5 of 5 from 3, which is awesome. But the fact that the game came down to Anthony Black hitting a corner 3, like it was so fun. Like the game overall wasn't great, like you said. Like the Magic did not play well, but to get a win, first off, most important thing. But the way it ended, the way the whole game went, and like the vibes and everything, it was just a fun win. And obviously, we'll always remember it for the Paolo 50. But all the other little stuff that happened just made it a pretty fun night for me. Let's hear more Paolo stuff, though.
No. That's what I was saying. Like, I wasn't sure if you had more stuff to talk about Paolo, because I was ready to move on to Jalen and AB.
I'm good.
No Franz Wagner. Like, it was pretty evident early on that he didn't have it. We heard earlier in the day that he was battling, with the illness that it seems like Tristan da Silva was dealing with, at the end of last week, and he wasn't able to play. But Franz, 2 games in a row now is sort of like try to gut it out, and he left the game I think in the second quarter and went to the locker room, and then we didn't see him again. So and then he tried to give it a go tonight, played a little bit and then left the game, went to the locker room, came back to the bench and didn't enter the game again. So whatever it is sounds pretty gnarly. It sounds like it's got to be some kind of stomach bug, like to really keep a guy out like this, which those are absolutely the worst. But yeah, for Jalen to step up the way that he has, it seems like he's taken even another step as a shooter, like just having more volume this year. Right now, through 5 games, he's shooting 8 attempts a game. He's shooting 42.5%. Both of those would be career highs, averaging almost 17 a game. That would be a career high. 4 assists, 5 rebounds. Still got to figure out some of the turnovers. We'll talk about the Bulls game. But like the first half of Jalen Wednesday night against Chicago, really, really solid. It felt like we're seeing him take another leap. And then Jalen, it's easy to talk about like being a good teammate and like loving all your teammates and trying to do the right things, trying to make the right plays. But when you are in the moment and you have a good look, like I don't think anybody would have faulted Jalen for taking that shot at the end of the game. But thinking like, hey, like we could get an even better look. If I pump fake, take a step to the left and then swing it to AB, and he did. And AB, who had knocked down a big 3 a couple of minutes before that, knocks down what is ultimately the game winner. You see Trevelyan Queen, as he sees AB going up for the shot, just sort of walks over to the side and puts his hand up, knows it's going in. And then just to see everybody like congratulate AB was awesome. And yeah, just big shot from Anthony Black. And I'm not even going to say the person's name because I don't want to throw any shade, but had Anthony Black been playing more last year, I don't think it's crazy to say that the Magic have home court advantage in the playoffs if Anthony Black would have been a regular in the rotation last year.
Well, it was a difference of 1 game. 1 game separated you from
just saying
from home court. So I definitely think that's possible. The other thing I wanted to say with Jalen, you talked about the volume, you talked about obviously his percentage is up. Jalen is taking making some deep triples, brother. Some deep threes. Now, some of them, those heat checks are not working out, obviously, but that's part of the deal.
None of the heat checks are working out.
But some of them, Monday, against Indiana, tonight against Chicago in that first quarter, some deep ones. And so that's like, it's one thing to make them, obviously, or to make threes, but once you're stepping further and further back, that requires the defense, if he's going to keep making those, requires the defense to start thinking a little bit, right? Like right now they're letting him have them, and it makes sense to do that. But if he's going to start knocking them down with any kind of consistency, like that Steph Curry, Luka range or whatever, teams are going to have to start thinking about that. So anyway, I don't know if he can keep it up, but through 5 games, that's another thing I've noticed is like, dang, dude.
And through 5 games, 2.8 attempts per game. He is 3rd on the roster behind Paolo and Wendell in terms of attempts per game, but he's shooting 92.9% from the free throw line so far. So like it is genuinely crazy. We heard throughout the Rob Hennigan era that, you can learn to be a good shooter, right? Like that's something that you can develop over time. And we're like, Alfred Payton, he can't shoot now, but in a few years, you better look out. Aaron Gordon's gotten to be, about league average and has had a couple of really good years shooting from behind the arc. But damn it, man. Jalen Suggs couldn't hit the ocean while standing on the end of the pier a few years ago. And this dude is legitimately turning into like a high level 3-point shooter. It's genuinely crazy.
Pretty wild. Oh, and also still being one of the best defenders in basketball on the other end. Like crazy.
It's such a roller coaster with Jalen because you're going to have games like tonight where I think it was 5 turnovers, but you kind of have to live with that sometimes. He's just such a like agent of chaos defensively. I mean, how much do we want to continue to talk about this Pacers game before we talk about the Bulls game? Because
yeah, it kind of meshes into, but the conversation like you're saying about Jalen with the roller coaster ride. Yeah, he had 4 turnovers. He also had 4 steals. So it's like that's a wash. That's a wash. I mean, but that's what you get with Jalen. Like, especially in this new lead guard role, we said there's going to be growing pains, and he's got to figure it out. But yeah, it's definitely a roller coaster ride. Obviously, again, I'm kind of skipping ahead of this Bulls game. He's the guy that gets the shot at the end to tie the game.
Well, yeah, let's just do the Bulls game.
Sure, let's do it.
We've talked about almost everything there is to talk about the Pacers game. Like,
yeah,
the game starts and ends with Paolo's 50-point performance. They got down a little bit. It was looking like we were going to waste that. Guys made big plays. They ended up winning the game. Like, tonight's game is really frustrating because we know what they're capable of, and that's what I always come back to. Like, I don't mean to crap on this team. I'm not like trying to be overly critical. But it's like, man, I know that this team is focused and locked in, not even they can be. I genuinely think they are one of the best teams in the league when they're cooking, just with given how deep we are, the way this team has the ability to defend, and when the ball is really moving around and the way that guys are able to, some of the guys are able to knock down shots and create for themselves and, cut to the basket and make lanes where maybe there isn't a lane. Like, this team really can be one of the best teams in the league. So that's what makes a night like tonight so incredibly frustrating, where like that first quarter, you are legitimately dog walking the Bulls. You're up by as much as 20 points in this game on the road, not the second night of a back-to-back. Now, I know there was no Franz Wagner, but like you're playing well. The offense is cooking. The defense is leading to offense.
They were booing in United Center.
Yeah,
in the first half.
You were. I was like, man, we're gonna get one of these nights where like 4 minutes left in the third quarter, we're like, oh, thank gosh, like we're gonna be able to win this game. We're gonna be able to get some of these guys who are sick and they're tired. We're gonna be able to get them some rest heading into the big game on Friday. Like, this is gonna be awesome. And then the offense like starts to sputter a little bit in that third quarter. But like really, like the fourth quarter is where it got out of hand. Like, the offense started to sputter in the third quarter. The problem in the third was that you let the Bulls get hot, like specifically Josh Giddey, Patrick Williams, and Kobe White. Those guys combined for 7 of 10 from behind the arc. The Bulls shoot 8 of 14 from behind the arc. They outscore you 34-25 heading into the fourth. And then what was it, like 6 minutes without a field goal from either team? These 24. Two teams, they combined for 1 of 25 to start the fourth quarter. And like the Bulls, they were just able to make a few more plays down the stretch. They got to the free throw line 14 times in that fourth quarter because they were getting to the rim. The Magic settled for 12 3-point attempts in that fourth. 0 for 12. They shoot 4 of 22 in that fourth. Magic shoot 18% in the fourth quarter, and they commit 4 turnovers as well. And despite all of it, you've got a chance. You're down 2 with, 21 seconds left in this game. And then, you're down 2. You've got the ball. You've got an opportunity to tie this game. And then Jalen Suggs drives the lane. Paolo Banchero had the ball double teamed. Bulls were like, we're making you like get the ball out of your hands, making someone else make a play. And Jalen, it felt like, had his defender on his hip and maybe could have got to the rim. And he had a couple of nice finishes at the rim in this game. For a split second, Paolo was open underneath. Like, I don't totally fault Jalen for not seeing that because the Bulls defense was collapsing, but he had that like fadeaway shot, which we have seen. Like, Jalen is capable of making that shot, but it just came up a little bit short. Magic are forced to foul with like 0.1 seconds left. Foul Josh Giddey. He makes 1 of 2 free throws. Magic call timeout. And can we talk about this for just a second? There's 0.1 seconds left. The ball is inbounded to Paolo. Now, everybody talks about like, oh, you can't, you need 0.4 seconds left to get a shot attempt up. Other than that, it has to be a tip. Well, when you're down 3, you're not going to get a tip at the rim and get fouled because the defense is just going to let you get that tip in if that's really what you want, because you're not going to be able to win the game. But they inbound it to Paolo. He gets the shot off. It probably wasn't off before the buzzer, but the ball goes in, right? They don't even look at the replay or anything. I understand the logic of like, well, we don't know. The refs don't know what's going to happen. If you try to, throw a lob at the rim. Is the other team going to foul you and whatever? But the fact that like they won't even look at the replay in that instance, to me, is just kind of dumb. Like I know I've watched basketball long enough. I understand it. It's not the reason that we lost, but it's just like, is that a written rule in the rule book that you can't have a field goal attempt under 0.4 seconds left? Who are they to say the limits of what is physically possible?
Well, it's a catch and shoot that's on there. Like if someone were to inbound it and you volleyball hit it from 3-point land to tie it, that's possible. But because it was a catch and shoot, that's where the rule is. And it is a rule. It's in the rule book. And it actually happened to, like, I can't remember the name of the rule. It's named after a guy, but it actually happened to the Bulls. Like the reason why this rule exists, which is funny. Here's where
my question: what do we need a rule for that for? The entire game, is anybody making sure that the person working the shot clock is stopping and starting the clock at the exact right moment every single time? No. But now the most impactful play of the game, potentially, it doesn't matter when the person hits the clock to start it. It's just, nope, you're not getting a shot attempt off.
Yeah, because you can't catch and shoot with 1/10 of a second. It's not physically possible.
They've never seen Paolo Banchero. They've never seen the likes of Paolo Banchero.
Stop before. It. No, I can't go with you on this.
Here's what I will say. I just think it's a dumb rule.
Here's what I will say. I don't know that there was 1/10 of a second left at the foul call. I think there might have been.
Oh, yeah, they didn't review that either.
That's the thing. I didn't see them review that, which normally they do. So on the one hand, you can say, and maybe they did, and if they reviewed it, great, whatever. But looking back, I'm like, could there have been 3/10? Could there have been 4/10 with a foul call? So on the one hand, I wish the officiating crew would go back and look at it. On the second hand, did Jamal Mosley's staff even mention it to them? Because that's the other thing. Like, that's the coach's job to advocate for stuff like that, right? It's the ref's job to do their job. But the coaching staff also has to be like, hey, you need to go back and look at that. It could have been more than 1/10, and sometimes they'll oblige. So I don't know if it was or not. But if that's
I will
the case,
say the ref goes, I'm watching the play. The ref goes into his motion to whistle the foul with 0.3 seconds left. Now, the foul occurs with 0.4 seconds left. So,
right.
But usually they go off of like when they call the foul. Now, the score bug clock is different than the shot clock. The shot clock is at 0.2 seconds left, so they probably end up going off of that.
Right.
But I just think I wanted to bring it up because I think it's a dumb rule. I don't like, I'm not saying like, it should have counted, blah, blah, blah. But I just think it's a stupid rule. Well,
yeah, I when it comes to catch and shoot, I don't. Like, it makes sense to me. But here's like the couple things from this game for me, right? Paolo plays, again, well in the first half. I mean, the whole team played well in the first quarter, right? Like, that was great. But you just didn't get enough from anybody else, right? Like, in that second half, I think Paolo was part of the problem, and he talked about that in the post-game interview where they just started jacking up threes, and I'll let you talk about that in a second because I know that's a passion of yours, is when the Magic start shooting threes. But the stat from this game, remember Paolo's first half on Monday? He scored 37. You know what the entire Magic team scored in the second half tonight? 37. 37 points in the second half tonight, 25 in the third, and a whopping 12 points
after scoring 62 in the first half.
That's right. Look, 99 times out of 100 in this league, if you hold a team to 16 points in the fourth quarter, you're probably going to get a win. Except the Magic tonight scored 12, and you lose by 3. So like that fourth quarter was the difference there. Yeah, pretty rough. But yeah, once the offense got stagnant and wasn't working, we once again regressed to being a jump shooting team, which just doesn't work. Doesn't work for this team.
Honestly, like, I was happy that Paolo said that in the post-game interview, that, like, myself included, we just started settling. What I didn't really care for was Jonathan Isaac after the game, like saying like, oh, guys are tired, guys are sick, guys are that. Like, I understand that, like, it's not like completely warranted. Like, Franz is very sick. Something's going on with Wendell. He doesn't look right. Talked about it after the game. Didn't really allude to exactly what is going on, but talked about needing to get his body right, which doesn't sound like it's an illness. It sounds like he's hurt. There's another injury, which, like, we've already done this twice now in the first 5 games with Wendell, which is not really a great sign. Goga is hurt. Goga wasn't able to play in this game. He hurt his foot against Memphis. That's not fantastic. But yeah, like this team, I don't want to like get on a soapbox. This team isn't a great 3-point shooting team, right? Like, first of all, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has been sensational defensively.
Mm-hmm.
He's been terrible offensively.
Yep.
Like if I pull up his shooting splits for the year so far,
28-17.
28 minutes per game, 5.6 points per game, 28% from the floor, 16% from the 3-point line. Like, you're getting paid $23 million a year, man. He's going to figure it out. I'm not saying that he's not, but that has been a big disappointment for me early in the season. And I haven't really gotten on him too much because the defense has been so ridiculous.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine being an NBA guard and lacing him up and being like, I've got to play against Jalen Suggs and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, even if I get a switch, one of those guys is still going to be on my side of the floor, with a chance to either meet me at the rim, block me at the rim, strip me as I'm going up, come from behind me and poke the ball loose, or just straight up lock me down.
And if I get past them for 15-ish minutes of this game, I'm going to have to face Jonathan Isaac. It's a lose.
It's really
lose,
not
lose
a good time.
all
So
the way
again,
around.
I haven't jumped all over him because he has been so good defensively, and he will find his rhythm. But man, like especially the one that he had late in the fourth was wide open. Like, bro, like that's like 50% of the reason that you're here is to be able to knock down some of these open looks. So we desperately need him to get it in gear, especially nights like this where you don't have Franz. But yeah, like the Magic just regressing to, we're a little bit tired. The offense is stagnant and we're just going to keep jacking threes. It was like, yeah, you know what? In that third quarter, we were 3 of 8 from behind the arc. And then in the fourth quarter, we were 0 of 12. You know what? We've missed 9 straight threes. Let's go ahead and settle for another one while the Bulls were, not parading, but, doing a good job of getting to the free throw line, to their credit. And to their credit, they were fantastic, in, that third quarter. They were doing enough defensively in the fourth to not, give us easy looks and easy paths to the rim. But like, man, like this is one of those games where if we have another instance of, we just barely missed home court, I don't want to be doing this again, exit interviews in May and at media day next year of, what we talked about, those Wednesday games in October, just as important as those games in April. Like, these are the games that we have to just lock in and win. And again, it's 5 games. We're 3-2. We're, still in the upper echelon of the Eastern Conference. If I pull up the standings right now, you're still, 4th in the East. The sky is not falling, but apart from like the first half against Miami was solid, but it was really that second half in Miami that they blew the doors off. Apart from that, like this team has not been able to put together like a solid 48 minutes since opening night. And, Brooklyn gave you a little bit of a run for your money. Memphis beat the brakes off of you. Indiana, it took like a really spirited fourth quarter comeback to win that game. And then you're up 20 points in the first half against Chicago. If you're able to extend that run for a few more minutes and get that lead to 30, at that point, the game is over, right? And we keep seeing this team get off to good starts and then letting off of the gas. And I mean, I don't want to keep pointing to Game 7 of last year, but you had all offseason to think about, like, man, when we get up in games, we can't let our foot off the gas. And now we've seen that like 3 out of the first 5 games. Not having Franz healthy is a big part of that. Not having Jonathan Isaac healthy has been a big part of that. But like, I'm looking at Paolo, looking at Wendell, looking at Jalen, looking at Kenny being a 2-time NBA champ. You've got to be able to reel these guys in during a timeout in the second quarter and be like, yo, get your stuff together. Like, this is not acceptable. Looking at a guy like Gary Harris, like, I just, to me, there's not an excuse for us not being 4-1 or, even 5-0 at this point. Like, the Magic have been in positions to be able to win most of these games. And like the Memphis game was just not great. Second night of a back-to-back, all that kind of stuff. This team should be 4-1 right now very easily.
Yeah, and I think a couple of things that just make tonight's game a little bit more frustrating for me is, number one, it's not like you're facing a gigantic, rim protecting team tonight, right? Like, once the offense starts getting stagnant, just go to the stinking rim, right? Like, obviously, Paolo, very good at that, but we've got other guys that are capable of doing that, even without Franz, right? Like, Jalen can get to the rim. He did that in the first half. Like, why are we not doing that in the second half? Paolo needs to get to the rim. KCP can get to the rim. Anthony Black can get to the rim. Like, take your pick. I just wish, once the offense starts getting stagnant, once we start missing our threes, I wish we were just able to be like, you know what? This is our bread and butter. And at worst, let's go to the line, right? Like, get fouled and go to the line. And the other part is, again, you look at a game like this, you just scored 12 points in the fourth quarter. You just need one or two guys to hit just a couple more shots. We're not asking for much. We're not asking for another guy to drop 25. We're asking for Gary not to go over. We're asking for, again, KCP not to go 2 for 7. We just need one or two other guys to hit one or two more shots, and this is a win. And it's the margins are so small, and again, it's a long season, long way to go, but it's just another reminder. Again, there's not a whole lot of wiggle room, especially for this Magic team where offense is a struggle. At least it was last season. We thought our offense was maybe bouncing back to start the season, but these last few games, it's definitely regressed to maybe closer to the mean. So every possession counts. Just need a few more buckets, and obviously getting Franz back, hopefully on Friday, will be a big difference maker.
Yeah, and like we talked about, no Franz, but another thing that was really interesting from this game was no Cole Anthony. We didn't hear anything about an illness. We didn't have any type of hint that we weren't going to see Cole Anthony tonight. But what we did see was 11 minutes for Jet Howard. And 11 minutes, he's got 3 points, 2 rebounds, and a block, 1 of 4 from behind the arc. Are we starting to see, a change? Because to me, that's a decision where, like, if you're going to make that, you have to stick with it. You can't put Jet Howard out there. Was he impactful in this game? Not really. I mean, I still think he gives you spacing at this point. Like, he's perceived as a shooter. Is that necessarily translating to impact just yet? No. To me, when he gets put into these games in like regular minutes, he seems almost like afraid of making a mistake, and he just really needs to play free. Like, when he comes in off the bench in garbage time and it is just like, I'm just going to pull up, he needs to play with that level of confidence when he's inserted into the normal rotation minutes. If I had to guess, to me, I would be surprised if they were going away from Cole Anthony this early. Like, yes, the first 4 games have not been good, but like, he's given you, 4 other seasons of showing you that he's able to put like decent stretches of basketball together. Sometimes he puts together really good stretches of basketball. So going into the season saying this is our backup 2 guard, and 4 games into the season, just ripping him from the lineup and going with Jet. Like, something, I feel like Cole must be coming down with whatever else is going on with the team. I would be really surprised if we were moving to Jet already.
Yeah, I would be surprised, but I don't know if I'd be like super surprised. I think we talked about it. I mean, what game was it? What game was the Tech was the Memphis game. Game when the Magic were on that run, that huge comeback from down 29. And we talked about, like, we're frustrated as fans. As the rest of the team, is the coaching staff getting frustrated, with how Cole's been playing, and he's had some really, really difficult moments through the first 4 games, and so it wouldn't shock me at all if they decided to just DNP him tonight. I'm with you. If that is the case, I'm very curious how long the leash is for Jet. If that is the case, again, it may just be illness. Who knows? But how long is the leash for Jet? Because you're right. I wouldn't call him impactful tonight. And I think defensively, he had a couple difficult possessions. But yeah, I'm curious what that leash would look like. So I don't know. I mean, obviously Friday is going to be a huge tell for that, but it's definitely interesting. And at some level, it definitely is surprising that they pulled him this early, if that is what happened.
Yeah, and just like, going back to, really like the last 2/3 of, last season, like, he's going to have games, where he gives you, you know, almost a near double double with his ability to rebound the ball. And, he's going to knock down some threes and make big plays that are going to help you win a game. But like, if he's going to have the ball in his hands as much as he typically does when he's on the floor, he just has to find that level of consistency. So I don't know. I don't think anybody should jump to a conclusion just yet. Um, let's give it another 2 or 3 games to see, what's going on with the rotation. But that was definitely interesting that we didn't see Cole Anthony at all tonight. And when he was on the bench and like during timeouts and huddles, like seemed to be in pretty good spirits. Now he's, always a team player, didn't complain when he went to the bench. But I think it might be a little bit different. Like if you're all of a sudden out of the lineup and it's your 5th year in the league, and you're 1 year into the extension that you just signed, that's got to be frustrating for anybody. But yeah, I definitely think healthy Franz, you win this game, and everything is totally fine. So like I said, the sky isn't falling, but I just know how good this team is, and when they don't play up to that standard, it's just disappointing to see. So need Franz to get healthy. And this team is still, I think 5th or 6th in terms of like defensive rating. Like Oklahoma City has just been by far and away the best defensive team in the league this year. I know a lot of people expected that, given their personnel. The Magic are still, 5th in the league in terms of defensive rating with a rating of 106.9, which is crazy because I don't feel like they've come anywhere close to like as good as they should be defensively. I think they should be closer to OKC than they are to, some of the teams that they're close to in terms of defensive efficiency right now. So, I still see the big picture for this team. Paolo is taking a leap. Jalen's taking a leap. Franz's shooting looks like it's coming around. AB's taking a leap. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope can just find that shooting stroke, start knocking threes down, consistently. And this team can get to the level of like really defending for 48 minutes and like not even a full 48 minutes. Like I tweeted out tonight, like in the middle of the 3rd quarter when the Bulls were starting to hit shots, like, hey, this would be a really sick time for the run to come because we know this team is capable of just switching or hitting that switch and going into that extra gear and, having a defensive performance like they had in the 4th, giving up 16 points. But like you said, the problem was that the Magic were somehow even worse offensively. And look, we've seen plenty of years of Nikola Vucevic being the back line of defense at the rim. Like nothing against him, but if you get past that those guards, you're scoring. Like we've seen enough of it. So it was a little bit frustrating to see this team just really settle in that way in the 4th because they ended up just beating themselves.
The last thing I have for this game and maybe even for tonight, honestly, is the other part that I don't know if frustrating is the right word, but concerning is this was the most winnable game of the road trip, right? Like if you look at the opponents, if you look at the schedule, you just had your home win on Monday, you get a full 48 hours rest, you go to Chicago against what is the worst team on this 5-game road trip. Because then you turn around and you play undefeated Cleveland, you have that back-to-back Dallas, OKC, and then in Indiana, a team that's going to be looking for some revenge on their home court. It's disappointing. Like you really, really feel like you had to start this road trip 1-0 because after that, I really don't know what's going to happen. And just the other note I have, I'm looking at this schedule, the OKC game on Monday, you can get in the door for that game for $6. That is the best team in the Western Conference. And you can go to that game for $6. That is wild stuff to me. I don't know. Anyway, Magic really needed to win this game if you ask me for this road trip because I don't know. I don't know. I mean, the rest of the road trip, 2-2 to get you 2-3. I feel like you'd be okay with that. But 1-4 isn't out of the realm of possibility if you ask me. It's a tough one. It's a tough one.
It really is. One thing that we know and I feel pretty confident about with this Magic team is that they're going to respond. And usually when they do that, they end up winning a game that you don't anticipate them winning. So I do think they're going to win that game in Cleveland on Friday. And then I think they find a way, even though it's a back-to-back, I think they split that Dallas, Oklahoma City. That's just because like that's the makeup of this team.
Right.
Is like, hey, you don't really expect us to get this win tonight, but we're going to go out and get it done anyway. So, and plus it's the NBA. Anything can literally happen on any given night. So, and then, you're going to have another game, on Wednesday versus Indiana. Next week, that's going to be interesting. The rematch of Monday's game from this week and the 50-point game, and it's going to be in their building, and they know that they let one slip, and who knows what's going to happen. What I have been thinking about since this game ended tonight is at no point last year were the Magic under 500, and the way that this road trip is set up, you're at a real risk of, which wouldn't be the end of the world. Again, if you're 3-4, the season is by no means over, because like right after that, you've got a very winnable stretch of games like New Orleans, Washington, Charlotte, Indiana. Like, I would not be shocked if like the Magic sweep that,
right.
4-game stretch. So,
by the way,
and all at home. Exactly.
Right.
So by no means it's the end of the world, but it's just an interesting little tidbit that the Magic at no point last year were underneath 500, even though they came very, very close in January. Just that was a little, note that stuck out to me. So Friday night at this point, like watch the film against Chicago. We had a lot of bad luck last year to start the season in terms of injuries to Wendell and to Markelle. But like those losses feel like losses that you can really like weather the storm. Losing Franz, and for basically the last 2 games here, it's hard to weather that, And as much as we talked about like the Eastern Conference being bad, like every team in the Eastern Conference has been competitive. Maybe they're not, winning a ton of games,
right?
But maybe Toronto, now they're going to be missing Scotty Barnes for a good amount of time. But you look at the bottom of the Eastern Conference, it's Detroit, Toronto, Philly, Milwaukee, Brooklyn, Indiana, Atlanta, Charlotte, Washington. Like Washington's now won 2 games in a row. The Hornets, they've been competitive. The Hawks have had they've started 2-0. Now they've lost 3 in a row.
Brooklyn beat Memphis tonight,
anything can happen in this league, and it's not going to be an easy season. We talked about this all off season, but the new level that we have of like expectations just adds another level of stress that like, hey, we're going into these games and we're expecting the Magic to win. And that adds just another level of frustration, where last year, a lot of it was like, man, this is crazy. We won another game. Look how high we are in the Eastern Conference. We're sort of ahead of schedule. And now it's, the vibes are still the same with the team, but just like the day-to-day for me in terms of like the blissful ignorance, like, oh man, we're playing with house money. I don't want to say that's all the way gone, but like it's kind of almost all the way gone for me. Like I expect us to any team that finished below us in the standings last year, I just expect us to beat when we play them. Like you just should. And then when it comes to the teams that, finished above us, I'm like, well, we got a 50-50 shot tonight.
Yeah, so I feel the exact same way, and that's part of the problem once these expectations go up. Yeah. At least for me, like it's hard to look in the big picture, just like, oh, it's only 5 games into an 82-game season. It's like, no, dang it, every game counts. We're fighting for playoff seeding in October, and so that's what makes like a night like tonight kind of tough. But sometimes I do need to take a step back and realize we're 5 games into an 82-game season, long sticking way to go. But each one of these things count. It's kind of crazy.
I know how much we care, and obviously I know how much the players care, more than we do, obviously. And I just hope that they're able to keep a better, more balanced perspective, because if they're as up and down as we are,
we're screwed.
we're big trouble. So, all right. Watch party coming up on Friday. Tip off is at 7:00. Watch party is going to start at 6:30 again. We'll be downtown Orlando on Wall Street at Rivals. Looking forward to that. And if you are looking to come to our group night on December 19th when we play the Oklahoma City Thunder at home, you can head to FEVO, FEVO-enterprise.com/event/sixthman, SIXTHMAN 65. Just really looking forward to that. These tickets, we never know how fast they're going to go. Like depending on the event, they're going to go pretty quick. And again, the first 100 people to purchase these discounted group tickets are also going to get early access to the game and be able to watch pregame warm-up. So looking forward to that. Again, we're looking for like diehard fans to come to that game who are going to be loud and cheer with us and really like set the atmosphere and make that a hostile environment for the Oklahoma City Thunder. We really want to get that win. But that is going to do it for this one. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to The Sixth Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See you.
Thanks for listening to The Sixth Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Sixth Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!